The following program is a real estate and mortgage show and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Good morning and welcome to Your Home, Your Money with your host, Randy Rodney, right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board right now, send us an email. Our email address is yourhomeyourmoney101 at gmail.com. And now, right to your host of Your Home, Your Money, Randy Rodney.
Ask for milk at like...
Hello, y'all. It's Randy and Gian here.
Morning.
Yeah, so you guys haven't really met Gian. He is a professional mortgage broker and has been doing it since when?
2011.
Since 2011. And he's joined us here today because there are some really interesting scenarios that are going on in the marketplace. And he just wanted to share some of them with us and give you some updates and things of that nature. So here we are. I'll just start off. We have a number of emails that came in this morning. So people who were watching the show, I guess last week, whatever, just tuning in. Ralph wrote in, to all realtors, get out of the business. It's oversaturated with people. Get into something else. Just saying. Thanks, Ralph. Respond, laugh out loud. Brian said, hey, home real estate, are we still in some sort of real estate crash here in Canada? Get rid of Trudeau and his cronies. Okay, so Brian, just to let you know, I have no way of getting rid of Trudeau and his cronies. Are we still in a real estate crash? Yeah, we're definitely in a down marketplace. The year ended up with a pretty. Oh, I left the book out there, did I? Yep. The year ended up with a negative. It may be in the machine, it may be on the table. It ended up with a negative, so we definitely did have a real estate crash for 2023. And no, that's not the one. It's in the machine, sorry. Maybe not. And the this year is basically kind of flatlined. So what we're seeing is a strong November, a strong December, and that's about it. So there's no there's no change. The marketplace looks like it's flatlining. So for 2024, are we going to see negative numbers? I'm not sure. So in a real estate crash, we would have to end the year with negative numbers. So I'm not sure if we're going to have that for 2024. What we're seeing is that the market did most of its adjustments in 2023. We still have some rate hikes that have taken place 18 months ago that are working their way through our economy, and so we will still feel the effects of those. People are still feeling the harshness of the affordability. It's at an all-time low. It's really difficult to be able to qualify for mortgages today. Private lenders really have backed off. They're really dovish and shy about lending money with the prospects of it coming back. So the marketplace in that way is not super positive. Thank you for your email. Florence wrote in, love the real estate show. We're based out of Denver, Colorado. Where are you? We're in the GTA in Toronto. The Toronto is sort of like the core of where we are, Toronto, Canada. And then as you move out, as Toronto sprawls out, it's called the Greater Toronto Area, the GTA, and that's where we are. Thanks for asking, Florence. Robert, good morning. Are you on today? I responded to your email, said yes. Anne, hi, Randy. We want to hear more about this idiot Trudeau. So I don't know what everybody's fixation on Trudeau is, other than maybe we are looking to sort of replace him. That may not happen this year. That may be a next year thing. And we'll see how that goes. But I definitely feel very sad to say that I would like to vote him out for sure. That was Donna, and I think that is it. Oh, hold on, Hannah. And Donna, greetings from New Orleans. Realtors down here listen to your show. This is Donna. Not a lot of prospects here with Mr. Biden in office. He really messed up the market down here. Yeah, I'm really kind of sorry to hear about your marketplace as well. I actually don't even find that surprising. What I find surprising was that the American people so strongly voted for Biden back in the day. I know this is a weird topic, but I mean, the guy was in his basement. He wasn't even campaigning. He said some of the craziest things. And it was just like obvious that you wouldn't vote for him unless you're kind of voting against Trump, which I would understand. But why would you vote against a good economy? Why would you vote? I don't quite get it. So I think personally, America kind of got what they deserved. They voted for that, and they've got it. And you know, he said he was going to be for all people, and all he's done is divided people and calling MAGAs, which is Make America Great Again. The Democrats have turned that into a dog whistle for white supremacy. Like, how the heck do you do that? And then they're trying to pretend that that movement is like really horribly bad and going to destroy America. And they're successfully doing it when you listen not just to Americans, but Canadians. Many Canadians sort of feel that that movement is a bad movement. I'm surprised by it. I am obviously not of that train. You can hear that from what I'm saying. But at the same time, I am more of a liberal or a Democrat. You know, and I have been throughout. I was a Bill Clinton lover, an Obama lover. I hated George Bush. So I was never a conservative. But the way the world's going today, it looks like I flipped on a dime. So like a fish out of water. And then the last email that just came in from Hannah. Hey, to the real estate show. It's very hard to get a mortgage. Is it very hard to get a mortgage? And I'll let Guillen answer that one.
So, I mean, it really all depends on your situation, to be honest with you. It is a little bit harder compared to if we're talking about, you know, the last 2 or 3 years. Interest rates have gone up significantly. I mean, the good news is right now, the rates, the 5-year fixed rates have actually gone below 5%, Randy.
4.99 is.
We haven't seen that in a long time. So, but the thing is too, the bond yields are starting to climb up again. So what that means, there's a high chance that rates will start climbing back up again. If you are in the market right now, especially for the spring, what I suggest you to do is maybe try to get a rate hold from your bank, broker, or lender, whoever you're dealing with, and just try to secure that low rate that we currently have. If rates do come down some more, you can ask them to lower that rate. Banks will normally accept that like as a one-time reduction. So, you know, it's a good time right now to get that rate hold for sure.
Yeah, so, and that makes sense, if you can get a 5% mortgage, which to me does not sound attractive in any way, but, you know, and what I mean is, based on my current day philosophy, back in the day, yes, it was a good rate, but today with the prices the way they are, I find that to make things rather expensive. But that is where we're at. So if you are looking to transact in real estate today, 4.99 is one of your best or your best rate currently. And as Guillen said, you know, if you are looking to purchase a home this spring, it's probably a good idea to call in and get a rate hold on that 4.99. If things do go down from there, as Guillen says, you can lower a rate hold once. So you can even, you know, get possibly a lower rate. But if the rates go up, you're protected against that, and you get to keep that 4.99 rate that is currently there and looks like it's going to trend higher.
Based on the bond yields, but
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah, it's a different market, so we'll see what happens. Ebb and flow. Yeah. So, Guillen, what you are here today? I know you wanted to talk about a couple of things. Yeah, what's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to bring up that obviously that good news with the rate coming under 5%. You know, just a few months ago, we were close to almost 7%. So that's a big jump from where we were, you know, 6 months ago or so. So that definitely makes a big difference. Another thing I wanted to bring up, if you have a mortgage that's coming up for renewal, if you did purchase a home back in 2019, 2020, 2021, chances are you probably had a fairly low rate, maybe at around, what is it, low 2%, below 2% at that time,
Yeah.
to high 2%, below 3% for sure. Right now, if you are renewing, you are going to be at around 5.25% or so. So just to give you guys an example, if you had a mortgage from 2019 at $500,000 at 2% rate, your monthly payments would be at around $2,100 per month. If you are renewing with your current lender at 5.25% or so, you're looking at monthly payments now of around $2,800 to $2,900 a month. That's a pretty big difference monthly. We're talking about $600 to $700 difference on your monthly budget, which could affect a lot of people. So what are your options at this point, right? So A, you can either just renew with your current lender. My suggestion, B, switch with a different lender and try to get a different rate, a lower rate usually. If that's still not good enough, you can try to reconstruct your finances by refinancing your mortgage, maybe extending your amortization, lower your monthly payments, increase your cash flow. And obviously, if that's still not good enough, then maybe it's time to probably downsize, which is maybe the last thing that you want to try to do at this point due to the market, right? But you definitely have a few options. If you do have mortgage that is renewing this year, give your bank a call. Feel free to give us a call at any time. We'd be more than happy to discuss the options that's available for you and just try to help you guys out. So
So where would they call? Well, how would they get in touch with you?
Oh, got a toll-free number, 866-263-1114. That is my toll-free, or my direct line. It's 647-895-7856. So usually available Monday to Saturday until about 6 p.m.
We just got an email in, but it looks
Okay.
like it was a little bit delayed. It's a different topic. And see, Gary, these are one of those emails for me to read. It's just my eyesight's it's small font, but it says, Randy, vote for Biden. You can't be serious, correct? What about the voter fraud? No. What about the voter fraud was proven? Huh? Ballots found after the election, paper ballots found in dumpsters, the voting machine companies owned by Nancy Pelosi's cronies, et cetera, et cetera. Biden did not win legally. Most Democrats in the U.S., I am one, really despise this guy. He ruined our economy, and he is unfit to be our leader. I am paying more taxes now. I lost my job. Our expenditures are through the roof. What sane Democrat would agree with you? Biden lost, plain and simple. Trump is in a lot of trouble for saying that, by the way. The Democrats do not want Trump to win the presidency, since he is in their way for their one world change order. We all know that here, the same Democrats, the same Democrats. So Breath is a Democrat and does not like Biden, but voted for Biden, I believe, and believes that what Trump says, that the election was stolen. So there you go. That's from Brett. I honestly don't know about all that stuff. It's a lot. And I don't think it would be good to even think that way, because then life is hopeless if you cannot, if your vote can't be heard, then that would be hopeless. So let's hope that that's not true, even though there were some problems, as you've pointed out. Hopefully, those aren't fixed problems that are, part of the bigger scale. They're just issues that happened in an election of that size. Let's hope, anyways. Just trying to be a little bit optimistic, because the only thing that we can do really about our situation is to vote. And so it's a pretty important part of who we are, of a democratic society, and we want to be able to think positively about that, even if we're thinking negatively about our leaders. I believe America, obviously, by their approval rating, Biden is not popular, and same thing here in Canada. Justin Trudeau is not popular. And I will say the same thing here. That's our fault. We're the ones that voted in the part-time drama teacher. And we voted him in because we thought that the brand, which was the Trudeau brand, would have been consistent with the previous brand, but we should have known that he wouldn't have the ability to be the same person, even though he has the same name, and we kind of got caught in that. To be honest with you, I think one of the big reasons why he was voted in was just because he wanted to legalize pot. And, I personally think that was a good thing that happened, but I don't know if it was worth having him as our prime minister, because the problem is, and it's the same problem that the United States is having, is the overspending the overspending is killing us. I know it's nice to have this dental program, or you want to give all free stuff to immigrants that are coming to a part of the border where you're not supposed to go to, and what they would call illegal immigration, and then we want to give them hotel rooms and all this silliness, which sounds beautiful, but we have to pay for it. And so we're all crying now because life is so expensive, but it's these things that are making it so expensive. But nobody really wants to come out and say, well, we don't want to do that anymore, because you sound cruel, you sound selfish, you sound like a bigot, maybe even. They'll pin that one on you as well. But the truth of the matter is, all you're trying to do is survive. And they're spending money at a rate that doesn't allow you to survive, because they're spending our money. And so as they spend and spend and spend more money, inflation becomes a problem, deflation becomes a problem, and we have to live by it. And so that is that. But how does that relate to real estate? Well, to be honest, it's a big part of what's going on, because COVID came, and yes, our governments had to make certain choices which will cause them to spend, but the Bank of Canada opened up the spending gates for our federal government and gave them basically a blank check, bought up all of the debt that they were creating when no other investors would do it. And you see, the way that our system is supposed to work is that our government can't overspend, because investors will say, you can't afford that, so they won't buy the debt, which is bonds. They won't, Canada bonds, they won't buy that debt. So then now the government has no money to spend, and actually may even go bankrupt. But since the Bank of Canada was buying it all, the government could spend like crazy. And so then what happened is that the Bank of Canada had to figure out, how are they going to buy all this debt? Well, they do it through quantitative easing. Quantitative easing, the natural result from it is a lower interest rate, because you're trying to stimulate spending while you're buying all this debt. And so that's what the Bank of Canada did. In lowering the rates through this quantitative easing process, that stimulates the real estate market. And simply because prior to that, if you had an interest rate of 3.5%, 4%, but now you're getting an interest rate of 1.9, 1.79 interest rate, then you can actually sell your little home, take your money, put the money in on a big home, get the new lower interest rate, and carry the bigger home at the same price as you could the little home. And so that stimulated the market point to the point where it was boiling and causing a bit of a frenzy. And so, so that's how our federal policies can have a huge effect on the real estate market. But now that and this process is a temporary process. They can't maintain that forever. As we saw, as they maintained it too long, our inflation rate went to 8.1%. When we were trending around 1%. And so that's obviously not healthy, so they had to put the brakes and stop everything in reverse course. We got another email here from Anne. Anne says, Biden and Trudeau have to go. I despise Trump, but he is better for the US and the world. Polyev is better for Canada and the world as well. They both believe in less government, lower taxes, fair food and gas prices, and more money in the pockets of families. Trump proved it. He did it before. And that's from Anne. And yeah, that's that. That's where we're at. Right now, what I think is going to happen, we have, as Guillen had said, and Guillen is a fairly conservative guy. With his wording, he's fairly conservative. I'm a little bit more out there. I think he was alluding to the fact that people can lose their homes. They are going to have to sell. I think in his conservative way, he was saying that if lenders, let me see if I get this right, if your mortgage is coming due, so if you bought in the last 2 years and your home value is less than the current value of your home, and you got a private mortgage and it's due, then the private lenders will not renew in many cases.
That's right. I mean, keep in mind, private mortgages are private individuals, private investors. They're not banks. Let's just say Randy invested in a property, lend a mortgage to somebody. He would be considered as a private lender. They're not the same as banks. They're not under the same regulations as banks, so they pretty much run their own course. Typically with private mortgages, they are on a 1-year term, and within the last couple of years, there have been many borrowers that have gone through private mortgages just because of the higher rates. The problem now with private mortgages is that they're usually in a 1-year term. They don't have to renew your mortgage. Typically with a bank, if your mortgage is coming up for renewal, they just send you a renewal. You renew with them, you're good for another 5 years. Private mortgages don't have to do that. So in this particular case, when property values have gone down, a lot of people are now in a negative equity. So what happens now, if the lender refuses to renew, then the clients don't really have a choice but to just now sell their home. So that's, I guess, where you were kind of getting at.
Yeah. So you're being forced out of your home.
Exactly. That's pretty much what's going to happen if you're in that scenario and you are with a private lender. So
Let's move that down the line a little bit. Okay, so unfortunately, your private lender will not renew, so you have to pay. You can't pay, hence the reason why you have that loan. You can't pay because everything has gone out of control. And a new lender is not going to take their place for a number of reasons. One is that the home value is just not there. The value of where you bought the home and the value currently of the home, there is no extra money to be able to do that, to perform that maneuver. So you are not in any kind of position to be able to keep the home. You have to sell. And hence, Guillen saying, well, at that point, you're going to need to downsize. And we are at a point in history where it's probably one of the worst times in history to downsize. And the reason why I say that is because the cost of homes are very expensive and the interest rates are high compared to the price of homes. The interest rates aren't high compared to historical numbers. It's only when you add the price of homes in and then you get the actual monthly payment relative to the average income, that's when it's considered high. And so these people will have to sell and either downsize or rent. And so they're basically out. So what can we do? The problem becomes even more complex. So I think we'd have to break this into canisters. One of the canisters is that they have the ability to sell their home, take out their remaining equity, and downsize or rent. So they have that option. So that's one canister. And then there's another canister where, after they sell their home, they're in further debt. They don't have enough to even close the transaction. They don't have enough money to pay out their mortgage and the costs associated with it, and are left with negative equity afterwards. So, given these two scenarios, one is that they do have some equity, and one is that they don't have equity. Let's talk about those two scenarios. So, I do have some suggestions. I'm just curious if there's anything you'd like to say about them before I go on my soliloquy.
Well, I guess the lesson here is, if you do plan on getting into private mortgages, make sure you have a solid exit strategy. There have been many times where a file was, sent over to me for review, and they were trying to get me to fund the mortgage through one of my private investors. And, I usually will ask them, well, what's the exit strategy here? And typically they'll say, well, my client is just going to refinance their mortgage a year down the road. And I'm looking at their scenario. They've got poor credit. They have no proof of income. That's just not a solid exit strategy. And to just say you're going to refinance, you can't rely on just their wording. Sometimes you have to really look into what the proper exit strategy is. If they're saying they're going to refinance, I guess it will be our job to make sure they have a solid foundation of that exit strategy. So if they're saying they want to refinance, we may have to look into your current finances, your income and such, just to really see if there's an exit strategy there, just so you don't get stuck with that private mortgage where a lot of people, again, are forced to sell their home. That's really the last thing that you want to do. So
Okay.
It looks like there is a new email here.
From David.
Okay, why would a private lender not renew a mortgage, especially if the borrower paid on time, they're paying a higher interest rate to the lender? So again, David, as mentioned earlier, private lenders will not renew if the equity is not there. So let's say that you, as a private investor, invested $300,000 on a home, on a mortgage. House was worth $400,000 before, so you had a $100,000 cushion a year down the road, a year before. Now let's say the house is only worth $290,000 or $300,000. So if you were to renew that mortgage, right now you're currently on a negative equity, and there's a chance you may not recover that money if the client isn't able to pay that mortgage on time, and you have to enforce a power of sale. And the only time that you'll really try to, or you can try to recover that money, is if the property values do go up again. And right now, it's not really a good time to say property values will be going up in the next few months or so, just with how the market's going, possibly rates going up again in the future too. So.
Yeah, so quite frankly, David, the biggest reason as a private lender that you would not move forward is because your money is at risk. That's one of the biggest reasons. You see, at the person's home, at the time when you lent it to them, the market was either stable or sort of had a upward movement. And the home was worth, let's say, $1 million. And, if it was worth $999,000, they were able to put down less money. And so you lent them a portion for them to be able to buy the house, and you were assuming that the prices would remain still or level or climb. And what happened is that 900 or $1 million property is now only worth 900, or God forbid, even less than that. Now, unfortunately, the money that you lent got them to the 900 part, or 850, let's call it, even, with your money inside the mortgage, they would have been at 80% of that, so 800. So they were at 800, and now the property is worth 900 or 850. Well, the problem with the private lender is he's saying, well, hold on a second. We owe, after you pay me, you owe 800 on this property. You have to pay legal fees, real estate commissions, and that in order to get out of the property. If you don't continue to make your payments because things are too expensive, I have to go to court and spend 10,000 plus. It's going to take me between 3 months to a year to get vacant possession. The chances of you paying me throughout that period are close to zero. So I'm going to be missing out on, 3 to 12 payments. Plus I have a 10 to possibly even $30,000 legal bill. I'm in the hole another $30,000 to $50,000. That brings your situation from 800 that you owed if you paid me rightfully to now 850 I'm into it for. The property is worth, let's call it 850 to 9. I have to pay for management services. I have to pay for an appraisal of services, or using the realtors. I have to pay for the realtors to sell the property. And now I'm in a negative situation where I'm not even getting my money back. And so when you start to get close to that scenario where the lender has to anticipate additional costs in order to get out his exit strategy, that money gets eaten. $50,000 goes fast in that process. And so if there's only a $50,000 buffer, to a private lender, there's zero. It would be considered zero or a negative buffer. And so they don't want to go down that rabbit hole. They are already on the cusp of it. So if the value was 900, they're on the cusp of it, because if they were 50,000 in a hole, plus then they have to turn around and they have to pay out all the real estate fees, which the real estate fees are quite large, and HST on top of that. And the real estate have to pay the 2 real estate companies, the brokers, the expenses, the government, all that comes out of that fee. That's why it's so ballooned, so large. There is no money left, right? And so, there's no private lender out there that wants to see their money lost. It just doesn't exist. So because of that reason, they say, you know what? Get me out now, right now. I'm going to do that one more time on this scale. $1 million property drops down to 900. Private investor says, oh no, I don't have 80% loan to value anymore. I'm down to 85, 87 or something like that, 80, whatever percent. There is cost, as we just determined, about $50,000 potentially cost to get him into the property so he can sell it. So you're gone from 800 to 850 into the property, and he's got another 50 in real estate fees. That goes from 850 to 9 real estate fees, legal fees, HST. That takes him to 900,000. There's $0 left in the property. So he already sees that. He already sees that that's where the situation is. And that's where the problem is for the private lender. So, David, that's why the private lender doesn't want to continue in an environment like that, because if the environment continues to decline, if it stays the same, he's in a risky position. But if it continues to decline, his money is wiped out. And so there is no reason for him to take that risk anymore. It is too scary. He's about to lose the money that he's been saving up for whatever period of time in his life. And he may have several mortgages out there. He may be very afraid. And so that's sort of the reason behind an investor's position. But I do understand what you're saying, that if they're paying their mortgage, but it isn't about them at that point. It's about you and your security for your money. Your goal is to have your money 100% secure, and now it's almost 0% secure, because you are right on the cusp that if one problem occurs within that transaction, then you are actually starting negative. You're losing money. And so this is why we're seeing a mass exodus of private lenders, exactly for this philosophy here. So private lenders like to have 20% minimum, and now they're looking for more. Now they're looking for 30%. 25 to 35% equity left over to protect their money, so that if things go wrong and the market goes down and you're not able to pay the mortgage or anything like that, and they have to make the payments. If you don't pay your first mortgage, guess who has to pay it? The private lender. Because if the private lender doesn't pay it, the first mortgage is going to kick not only you out of the home, but they're going to kick the private lender out. And what I mean by that is the private lender is not getting paid by you. The first mortgage is taking it over and they're selling it. What's happened? What kind of condition is the property in when it's being sold? You see, here's a thing that people don't consider, because I was listening to a bunch of stuff, and right now there's a lot of hate for realtors. There's just a lot of hate, and justifiably I understand it, because they're saying, I understand the hate for a couple of reasons. But one, they're saying that realtors are the reason why prices went so explosively high. But the truth of the matter is, it wasn't realtors. I will admit that realtors are hired by, there's two kinds of realtors. There are buying realtors who work with the buyers, and there's selling realtors who work with the sellers. Understand that they have completely different mandates. The mandate of the selling agent is to get their client, the seller, the most amount of money. And the buyer's agent is working for the buyer to get the buyer to pay the least amount of money. So they're at opposing forces. So when you say that realtors are at fault for the higher prices, well, if the buyer realtor is not doing his job to get the client the best money, then I will agree with you. But the selling realtor, his job, the reason why he was hired was to get the seller the most amount of money. So I don't agree that he is at fault. But then the argument then turned to, well, the thing is what they're doing is just wrong, where they're holding back offers and they're creating this pressured marketplace. Well, isn't that why we're hired, so that the seller gets the most amount of money? So if you're creating a marketplace where the seller would get more money, you're doing your job for the seller. So then what the alternative is that you don't do that job for the seller, and you don't bother with the market conditions in any ways that you could give the client an edge. Then there's no need in having a realtor. Forget about it. Just forget about it, because then you can just put your property on the market yourself. And many people do that. It's called a for sale by owner marketplace. And the for sale by owner marketplace, statistically, it's studied. So there's studies out there that show the difference between the pricing of a for sale by owner versus the average, not the elites, the average realtor. And there's a double digits difference. So the for sale by owner is trying to save 5% commission, and they end up selling at double digits below what the average realtor would sell for. Now, we don't pride ourselves on being an average realtor. We certainly come in well above the average, so that's what makes it worth hiring us, because we get more money than the average realtor. But they're comparing them to the average realtor, and the average realtor is blowing for sale by owners out the water. So the thing is that that's why the real estate market exists, because there's value in it, because for sale by owners aren't doing it every day, so they don't have all the tips and tricks to be able to get the most amount of money. Which leads me back to this discussion where you have the first mortgager is not going to be trying to get the most amount of money. They're going to try to get what the market will bear. So they're not going to set the property up in the most pleasant light for the buyer. The property is going to be looking how it looks. It's going to be the way it's presented, and there's usually a downward pressure on that pricing, so they're not getting top dollar. So what happens then to the private lender who's sitting there waiting for their money out? Well, the property didn't fetch the most amount of money, and so the private lender loses money. So that's why the private lender would say, well, no, let me stop this here. Let me pay the first mortgager and bring them up to date and take the property over myself and put some money into the property so that I can get the higher value, so I can get my better return on the work that was done, so I can get my full value out, and any difference above that goes to the homeowner, but at least I've gotten my money out of the property. So that's the problem that the private lenders are in, and so people don't realize that that this whole situation for private lenders is out there and exists. If that homeowner is in problems and is unable to pay their mortgage, that private lender has to pay that first mortgage, or they run the risk of the story I just told you. We just got another email. You want to take that one?
Okay. You both just basically proved the point of your other emailer. Get out of real estate. Who can qualify or afford a home nowadays? Unless we change the people that rule our countries and change the laws, we're all doomed. I wonder what next made-up crisis will be to put us all in our place by the government.
Wow. So thank you, Katie. You know, I understand, I do passionately understand where you're coming from as a human being. I happen to love this industry. I grew up with it ever since, you know, even before I was married, I've had my real estate license, and we're going on 25 years this August. I got my license, real estate license in '88. So I've been around a while. This is my wheelhouse. This is what I love. I'm passionate about it. So finding another career is just not in the works. Helping people navigate this situation is something that I would prefer to do. There have been many times we have stuck our necks out for clients, and this happens to just be another time. Let me tell you, behind the scenes, we're going full circle back to the two scenarios that sellers face that are in problems. Now, keep in mind that, Katie, that this scenario that we're speaking about, as horrible as it sounds, and it doesn't matter if one person's going through it, it's sad, it is a very low percentage of the overall marketplace. As a matter of fact, what is it? It's only like 50% of the people own houses. So 50% of the people aren't going through this. And of the 50% of the people who do own houses, I think like 30 something percent of them don't have a mortgage. So those people aren't going through this. People who have purchased homes prior to 2 years ago and purchased homes, 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, aren't going through this. This is an exclusive problem for the people in the last year to 2 years are going through. So it's a small section of the market, but it doesn't matter. We're passionate. We understand that it doesn't matter if it's small or large. These are human beings who are going through it, and it's really unfortunate that we're putting them out to slaughter. And that's sort of the way I think of it, But going back now on the two scenarios, one is the person who has the equity, and as Guillen said, those people would take their money and they could perform one of two tasks.
Yep, they can either reconstruct their finances by refinancing their mortgage, going to a bank, and getting a better mortgage. Again, that all depends on their overall scenario, if they had a proper exit strategy at the time. Or they can sell their house, list it, and downsize would be the other option for them. So.
Right. So for the people that are forced to sell, they would sell their home, take their equity out, and at that point they'd make a decision on what to do, whether they're going to save that equity, invest that equity, rent, or downsize.
Correct.
So that would be them. It's the people who don't have equity that the real problem, so actually, in both cases, it's a problem because nobody wants to be uprooted.
Yep.
Right? And nobody really kind of wants to downsize involuntarily. They want to downsize because they're looking to make that move, not that they're being forced to make that move. So I don't want to take away from them. But the people who do not have the equity, that after they sell their home, actually they're in a position where they can't even sell their home because when they go to close, they have to pay out all of their bills. That's how you get equity left, is you've paid out all the people that need to be paid for the transaction and the monies that's leaned against the home. But if you don't have enough to do that, then you have to come with a check to the table and pay that money out. But if you're in this situation, you may not have it. So this situation goes into two schools. One school where you have a way to get the money and you escape and you owe your mom or dad or whoever gave you the money because they paid to get you out of that scenario. And two, the person who doesn't have anybody to do it or won't go to their parents, or, they're in a really bad situation because they're in a situation where they can't even manage their own exit. Their
right.
exit is going to be managed from the bank. So what would we do? And so here is the part where I say that not all realtors are created equal. Some realtors really, and I think actually I would like to say all, but I know that wouldn't be true. But I would say a good portion want a solution for these clients. So this is where we take extra time and extra care. And this is where we get on the phones with our clients, because the banks won't talk to us. Their lawyers won't talk to us. They can't. All the privacy laws that came in during 9/11 destroyed all that. So now, you have to have the client there, but you would want the client there anyways because you're speaking on their behalf because they don't know what to do. And what we would do at that point is we would do our best to negotiate a successful closing for them, even though they don't have enough money to bring to the table. We would do our best to exhaust all the scenarios, to help them to exhaust all the scenarios, and help to mitigate as much of their losses as possible, and work with all parties involved in order to make them be able to exit their property with the most amount of dignity possible. It's a lot more work. It does take a fair amount of talent because this is not a system that Canada has. This is a system, for those of you who followed the problems that happened in the United States back when, was that Clinton that was in power or Obama? When there was a serious crisis, I believe it was Clinton, a serious crisis, real estate crisis, where it was in, I think the '08. That might have been George Bush, actually. It was George Bush. I think that's why I hated him. Anyways, they came up with something called the short sale, and I think that we're going to be experiencing it's going to be a small crisis. It's not going to be, as major as what happened in the States. But remember, as Canadians, we're much more sensitive than Americans. Sorry for you Americans out there that are taking it offensively, but it's true. If we're walking down the street and bump into somebody or they bump into us, both parties are saying, "I'm sorry." Both parties are actually feeling sorry for that event to have happened. We are extremely sensitive, Canadians are. Some even more sensitive than others, but we are a sensitive nation. And because of that, just having a few people go through it, any people go through it, is pretty serious. But what I anticipate is we're going to start to see this short sale mentality, the experts that are in the industry that are working hard for their clients are going to get on the phone, and we're going to be negotiating directly with all the parties involved to negotiate a successful closing where there's not enough money to close, and that is going to that's going to be the way forward for many people. It's a tough market out there. So the same thing that you're experiencing some interesting pitfalls, we're seeing a big rise. I've got a friend, a big rise in this industry. I've got a friend who markets, we'll buy your house, we'll buy your house. His business is through the roof. Everybody wants to sell them their house.
Right.
But guess what? All the people who are calling to do that can't, because there's just not enough equity. They want to sell it to be able to get out from underneath their issues, but he wants to buy it to be able to make a profit.
Right.
And the two can't come together because they owe too much money on their home.
It's unfortunate.
So I'll let you close out. You got another thing you want to hit, or just wanna close
Well,
out?
I guess just going back to, the private, if you guys are considering a mortgage and a broker has offered you guys a private options, do know that there's probably more options out there. There are banks that's willing to work with you, even if you have poor credit or even no credit, as long as you can show that you can service the mortgage debt. So that's the most important thing. If you are in a position where you have poor credit, you have no income to show, and a private lender is offering you a mortgage to purchase the house with no solid exit strategy, I would suggest you probably get a second opinion elsewhere and just to see where you're at before you end up in this position and lose your home.
Yeah, yeah, in a year, because privates are a year, 1 year away, right?
That's right.
And the 1 year in this marketplace is a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. So that's great advice. And anything you want to say in closing?
No, that's really it. Well, thanks for having me here, and
Oh, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll join us again.
Yeah, for sure.
We could definitely use we could definitely use a mortgage voice. The people obviously have responded by asking questions. So for them, it's been good. I know for us, this is a very important topic. It's one that is just starting to scrape the surface now.
yeah,
And if we can talk more on it, people will maybe not feel as ashamed of the situation they're in.
Yep.
Because currently, right now, people are still don't really know they're in it, right?
that's right. Yeah,
And that's why Guillen called me. He says, "Hey, I want to bring light to this situation because people just don't realize that they're there, but this is a serious problem." So thank you for tuning in to Your Home, Your Money, and Our Lives on realityradio101.com. Bye for now.
thank you.
Thank you for listening to Your Home, Your Money with your host, Randy Rodney, right here on Reality Radio 101.